so one of the things that Trump has been tweeting about, he's been tweeting out against Republican governors, Republican secretaries of state. One of the ones that got the most ire from him was Georgia Republican Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Trump accused them of mucking up the votes, allowing illegal votes in, not doing his part, blah blah blah. There's actually a story that came out that the people from the Trump campaign have been going to Brad Raffensperger since January, trying to get him to endorse Trump for this election. And Brad,
and he's bipartisan. He admits that he basically lets y'all know I'm bipartisan. I'm not.
Oh yeah, that as Secretary of State, I am not allowed to endorse anybody. And he said that after the fact, he said I voted for Trump in the election. I voted Republican, a full Republican ticket. But my job as Secretary of State is to ensure that all the votes are counted accurately.
Unless you're Kim.
Unless you can't, yeah. To ensure that all the votes are counted accurately. To ensure that I put things in place to make sure that the vote is secure, right? So whether it's adding stuff like you have to bring your driver's license, your signatures have to match all that. The Republicans added all that stuff. Now we can say that they added that to potentially suppress the vote because they knew that there might not be a match between this and that in Fulton County, so they might depress black turnout or whatever. We can say all that. Fact of the matter is the Republican legislature passed all those rules, put it in place, and the Democrats still won. Raffensperger even said, look, let's do a recount. They did a recount, and Biden's lead shrunk from like 15,000 to 12,000. Biden still won. Raffensperger is like, look, it's not my job to go in and change the vote tallies. It's my job to make sure that a free and fair election is held, and I've done that. Why are you attacking me and my family on Twitter? There was even someone who wrote to Raffensperger and said, what did he say? I think make sure you get the recount right. Your life depends on it. Like, really? Like, come on.
And you know what's even worse after that is, have you started seeing now is when Loeffler and Senator Perdue they're saying, we firmly don't believe in violence. They're not denouncing the election, but they're also not saying, okay, Donald Trump concede. But now they're trying to make sure that people realize, oh, look, this negative part of this idea of fraud, i.e. threatening somebody's family, threatening one of our own, first of all.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
if I'm not mistaken, Democrats instantly said no against the threat of violence, right? They think, I don't know if Warnock did it or Ossoff did it, but one of them two.
It came to Raffensperger's defense, right?
Yeah, and said, look, you can't be threatening people. You got to let the election play out or whatever. So now what's going on is you have these two people, these two candidates, all of a sudden so now they're playing a little bit of a game because they got to make sure we got a lot of people who want Donald Trump, who still love Donald Trump. We can't denounce him, but let's denounce people's reactions to him.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a game. It's a game that, to me, it's just, that's why I am not. So Donald Trump said, I'll see you in 4 years. I'm not 100%. I am not sold on the fact that he's going to come back in 4 years. I really don't.
I don't think so either.
Because I think the Republicans are going to try to make moves to make sure to block him from trying to even move forward. Basically, kind of, I wouldn't say denounce him, but make him irrelevant. But that clown is gonna go down swinging. He is going to keep talking because remember, he was talking for the longest time during Obama's presidency.
I think the Republicans aren't sure whether to hold him tight until January 5th or to let go of him. I think they're not sure whether it's politically beneficial for them in this runoff election to be so closely associated with Trump. And it's a really hard place to be in right now. Because normally when you lean so far to the right, it's usually when you're in a primary process, right? It's Loeffler's situation especially. It's usually when you're in a primary process and you're trying to beat out another conservative. You want to be like, I am the most conservative, put me in. That stupid Attila the Hun ad that you put out, right? More conservative than Attila the Hun. So, and then after the primary process, you want to try and come back a little to the middle so that you can get your voters and get people that are like straggling somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
The problem for Loeffler and Perdue is that they've gone so far to the right for a November 3rd election and now only have 2 months to try and placate to straggling voters that may vote for them. And I think Trump has put them in a situation where he's like, no, actually, you have to stay on this, very far to the right and defend me.
But the problem is Trump continues to show that he only cares about himself. Because remember the thing that he said, you should not even give them your vote.
Yes, they didn't defend me.
Don't go vote because they don't deserve your vote because they didn't get me to win.
Yeah,
or some crap like that.
Yeah, even though right after the election, Perdue and Loeffler were calling for Raffensperger to step down because he botched the election and people don't have faith in the election process. What do you mean people don't have faith in the election process? The only people that don't have, like, I really don't get it. Like, I've played sports for a large part of my life. I've had wins, I've had losses. I've probably had more losses than I've had wins. But I understand that that's part of what happens. You get out there, you compete, you put your pride on the line or whatever, and sometimes it doesn't work out. And you work.
And at the end, you shake your opponent's hand.
Yeah, you shake your opponent's hand.
You don't pull a Tom Brady, walk away because you're upset.
Right, exactly. You shake your opponent's hands, you go away and you work at getting better so that you don't lose again. Because losing sucks. Losing feels bad. But the idea that you'd start saying, no, this entire thing is rigged. None of it matters because that's Bush League. That's BS.
But to me, that just see the problem with them is they went all in on a guy who honestly only cares about him. That's really the one thing that's Donald Trump only cares about himself. Now, you heard about basically him pushing through 5 executions, and a lot of people are saying that the reason he's pushing through these executions, he wants these executions to happen, is because he wants to cause as much misery as possible. They're saying that
I didn't hear about that. What?
Yeah, so there's like 5 executions. One of them is against this one lady who's actually mentally ill. And she killed somebody. Hold on. I could look it up real fast. So she killed somebody, and a lot of people are like, why is she set up to be executed? I'll try to see if I can get her name. But and it's just like there's a few other people that are just getting pushed through, when a lot of people are like majority of the time, a lot of times it seems like, I don't know if you've noticed this, but it seems like executions get stopped. Like, because it's an ongoing issue. Execution is probably something that me and you should talk about, capital punishment, just because it is an ongoing issue. It's a continuous debate as to whether it's something that a country like us should be doing. One. And then there was a halt for a little bit. I don't know if it was because of elections. I don't know if it was because of Corona, but there was a little bit. And now all of a sudden, some executions are being pushed through. And somebody said they're crediting that to Trump because it's part of his narcissism that he's going to bring down as many people as he can because he can't accept the fact that he lost this election. Yeah, like that might be a jump, but that's just kind of a microcosm of like the kind of mentality that this man has.
Yeah, Just Mercy is a good movie about death row inmates and all that stuff. It's the Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx. It's a good one. You should watch it.
Yeah, I've heard about that one. Michael B. Jordan defends Jamie Foxx, right?
Yeah. It was a good movie. So yeah, I didn't hear about it. That's typical though. Typical Trump. I mean, same thing with people are saying that he might have had a hand in this assassination of this Iranian guy. This big leader type in Iran, and they're saying that they're going to retaliate. And like, of course, he would do all these things just before he's about to leave office to like sow discord. It's so sad. And the thing is, they knew it. We all knew how narcissistic this guy has been. He's shown us this for decades, and they still leaned into it. They hugged him tightly.
So what's going to happen is, I just found an article. It says Department of Justice set to execute 5 federal prisons right before Inauguration Day. So it's gonna happen right before. It's I think within 2 days of Inauguration Day, they're gonna do these executions, and apparently, federal executions had been halted for 17 years.
Oh wow! So
And
this
in
is the
July
first time in 17
2019
years.
is when they started doing them again.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of like federal executions.
Yeah.
Because I think state executions are completely different. But
Yeah.
this
There
is
was one that
federal.
was going to happen in Georgia, I think, a couple of years ago, and they were appealing to Kemp to grant the person clemency, and
Clemency, yeah, and they
like,
still went through with it.
Yeah, because there was a lot of stuff, a lot of things in the case that just didn't make sense, and they're like, let's review this. But
yeah, I think I remember that one. It wasn't their main witness was like a snitch in a sense, and really he wasn't that credible because he might have been involved, or it might have been him.
It sounds a lot like the movie Just Mercy, actually. It sounds a lot like what happened in that case.
We watch Just Mercy and talk about it.
Yeah, it's sad. It definitely deserves its own segment.
Sure.
Okay, so I do want to talk. Well, what was the other thing we had in the paper before?
No, it was that. It was those two things, and then now what we want to talk about is actually we just want to kind of, I guess, touch on Biden's current picks for his cabinet.
Okay, good. Before we get there, I do want to talk about those Georgia Senate races. I don't know if you know, Sunday at 7 p.m. on CNN, they're gonna air the debate between Kelly Loeffler and Ralph Warnock. Of course,
is Senator Perdue still too much of a coward to actually debate?
That's what I was gonna say. Of course, he's avoiding debating John Ossoff. What a bitch! he's just so chicken. I have never seen this in my 15 years following politics. I have never seen.
And Zino doesn't curse much, guys. So that tells you where he's at.
I have never seen someone be like, you know what? I'm gonna look bad in this debate. I'm just gonna not go. Oh God, I can't stand it. I cannot. Yeah. But it's looking more and more like Kelly Loeffler might actually lose. It's just strange.
You think so?
Yeah, it's strange that Loeffler might lose and Perdue might win. That they might actually split the votes. Loeffler is getting really desperate. There've been some really nasty ads against Warnock that I've been seeing. NFL Sunday.
And out of context. Ads too. So just in case those who don't get the ads, because obviously when I'm watching my Hulu, that's exactly what I want to watch is ads on. And then I started muting during the football games just because I'm like, oh my God, I thought we were going to be done with this. Why didn't you get the 51%? But so basically the ads that she's running is, and if anybody, so obviously, as you can tell between me and Zino, one of us is black and one of us is not. I'm not black.
I think it's me, guys.
Is it you? Okay. So, but I know a little bit about black churches, the way they preach. They become a lot of them are very social issues that they speak on because it affects their community, right? Black men and women are out of proportion being arrested and going to jail and, getting killed and all that stuff, right? So they talk about that. Mm-hmm. But the problem that Kelly Loeffler is doing with these ads is she's only pointing out the whole where he says, being a police officer, certain things about it is thug mentality, right? But if you listen to the whole entire sermon, he explains what he's talking about. Another one, the main one that they talk about is where he says, you can't serve God and the military.
Yeah.
He wasn't saying you can't join the military. He wasn't saying he was anti-military. What he's saying is, and I believe this myself being a Christian, is there has to be a first between that. Basically, between God and country, God has to come first if you're claiming that if Christianity is as important as you say it is.
Yeah, can I read?
Sure.
I took from what someone had posted on Facebook. So Matthew 6:24, no one man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. So the person I shared on Facebook, he said that Warnock is not saying that you cannot be in the military and also believe in God. He's simply saying that the military, as well as other things, cannot be above your service to God. If you have problems with that, better check your priorities.
Yeah, and it's basically saying you got to look, if God has to be your number one, right? You have to follow him. He has to be king over you. And look, we're not preaching because this isn't a preaching sermon, but we're basically I'm going off of what I know of how these kind of sermons go, and from reading my own texts and all that stuff. Basically, military is a job, and you got to accept it as a job, but you can't allow it to destroy your morality. Is really what one of the main things that he's talking about.
Yes.
And so, of course, Kelly Loeffler is doing, because what did I say right before? Was it during the election or right post election podcast? There's two types of ads that they like to put out: hope and fear. Kelly Loeffler is leaning completely to the fear, which is ironic.
Completely.
But it's funny because Senator Perdue cracks me up because he does the fear, but then he spins it with at the end talking about the hope. Have you seen the one where he's walking, looking out into the sunset to save America? Vote Senator Perdue.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yo, dog, you feeling yourself right there if you really think you're going to save America.
Loeffler really puts herself in the ads. I think there was one in which there was a lady saying that, Loeffler knows how to live paycheck to paycheck or something. So knows about living paycheck to paycheck. I was like, word? Like $1 million paycheck to paycheck. So
isn't her dad a millionaire?
No, her husband is like the CEO of the New York Stock Exchange or something like that. So it's flabbergasting to me. But what you said about how Black churches go, completely correct, because a lot of our civil rights leaders for decades have been from Black churches. They've been pastors. The Reverend Martin Luther King, right, from the same church, Ebenezer Baptist Church, as Ralph Warner, Al Sharpton, Reverend Al Sharpton. Like it's a lot of them come from the pulpits, and they talk about what's going on out there. Because honestly, a lot of the reason why Black people for centuries didn't just get up and revolt and just be like, we're gonna kill all of you, is because of the being rooted in faith. Being rooted that better days are ahead of us. The Christianity really saved the mental space of like a lot of Black people. We can have our conversations about how religion can be
used to do stuff like to excuse slavery. And excuse people staying in bondage. Yeah, definitely. I get that. Yeah.
But they definitely used it as a way to overcome, and they continue to do so. But Martin Luther King, I promise you, in the 60s, he was considered a radical, right? And now, don't we revere him? So all this stuff that
Jesus was considered a radical,
right? So all this stuff that Loeffler is trying to do is just
Kelly Loeffler is basically using the argument of the Romans during Jesus's time.
Right.
In all honesty, she's using, and the funniest part to me about that ad. So there's this ad is the most damning part isn't even Raphael Warnock speaking. It's what's his name? Obama's old preacher.
Reverend Wright.
Reverend Wright. His, the whole, no, God bless America, God, America.
Yeah.
So, that's because there's a reason he supported this. And then they do that clip. But the thing is, they don't actually have anything saying that where he supported that.
Yeah. Warnock himself isn't saying that, but they're like, hey, look, other Black pastors say things like this. So, don't vote for a Black. He's not your kind of Christian. That's basically what that is.
That is what it is. That is what it is. He's a little too Black to be your kind of Christian. It's really exactly what they're going for. She's hitting all the racist motifs. Exactly. Where Senator Perdue is just going on the radical part. Which, by the way, if you know John Ossoff's politics, John Ossoff is not a radical.
Yeah, I used to call him milquetoast because he's just kind of there. Yeah, but I know he has grown on me a little more, like in the past couple of months. But John Ossoff isn't the rock the boat type of guy.
No.
But Perdue will have you believe that he's like freaking Hugo Chavez, no, Cesar Chavez.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. But anyway, so